So the name on everybody's lips since our defeat against Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday is Karim Kimvuidi, and rightfully so. He came on in the second half when the Bucks looked very dull and uninspired, and gave a very inspired performance. He very well looked like Zinedine Zidane at his prime, and this is not a French reference or anything like that. He looked very imperious in that midfield, utterly dominating. Jose Rivero described him in one of his recent press conferences as a very complete player, and I'll reference to this in a bit. The most impressive thing for me about Karim Kimvuidi, and I spoke about him a lot in this podcast, since last season. I spoke about him and said that I hope this is one of the players that Pirates brings into the club, and they did. So they might listen to this podcast, and I'm so glad. But I spoke about, we should bring this player to the club, and the most impressive thing about him at that point, the glimpses that I caught of him, a couple of man of the match performances at Maritzburg United, were his skills and his talent. The most impressive thing about Karim Kimvuidi for me at Orlando Pirates at the moment are not his skills, even though he's got very good skills, is not his talent, even though he's got a superior talent. But there are two things that impress me the most about Karim Kimvuidi in the context of Orlando Pirates. And the first one is that he's only 21 years old. So I've been on here and I've spoken about, one of my concerns in that midfield of Orlando Pirates, which is the continuity. I've spoke about how looking at the players that are the crucial players, the key players for us in the midfield, the average age of our Pirates midfield before the departure of Ben Motswari very recently, which has been good business by Orlando Pirates, not because Ben Motswari is a bad player or anything like that, but in a footballing sense, to have someone like him not playing at the club. I don't know so much about the wages and things like that, but that doesn't concern me much. But just the freeing up of those spaces for younger players to come in who are guaranteed to develop somewhat at the club. I think Ben has given what he may. He didn't look like you're someone who are still going to contribute to the Orlando Pirates squad by the looks of things. But this is not an episode about Ben Motswari. But my thing is, I've spoke so much about, the continuity, and I still will talk about the continuity of how you should build a club, build a squad. You want to be thinking about, okay, how can we perform best this season, but how can this crop of players also be able to, be better next season and the next and the next and the next. So when you've got a lot of 30-year-olds, you stunt yourself in that regard. You've got to always try and bring in players and shift those ones out at the end of every season, which disturbs the chemistry and the momentum and, the continuity of what you're building. And this is, particularly what impresses me about Karim Kimvuidi. Being 21, you've got someone who's going to be in that midfield, provided he stays in the country and he develops, and, his coaches give him the time. Jose Rivero, if he's still here after 3 years, because I listened to one of his interviews where he spoke about he doesn't see himself staying at a club for more than 3 years. So, that kind of also gave me a few question marks about whether or not that's why we don't see a lot of young players. He's at times looked like he trusts his, tried and tested older players, because if he wants to be at the club for 3 years, then obviously there's a temptation for me as a fan to think that he's going to think about the now and how he can best achieve what he can best achieve individually for, his stay at the club. Because, the truth is, guys, Buccaneers fans, we are the people that are going to be at this club. The people that are serving us and working for us in the club, they're going to be here and they're going to go. So they think about, how to best achieve what they can. And then what happens after that is none of the business anymore, frankly, for some of them. I bet Jose Rivero would say that he's trying to, make sure that he builds something that's sustainable, that the next manager who comes in, the next head coach, I beg your pardon, who comes in, can then work with and things like that. However, it's so impressive to see that he's been given a chance, Kimvuidi, at 21. I think if he develops, he becomes a monster for us in that midfield for years to come. And if you think about someone I've spoken about as well on this podcast, is Ndabaiteto Ndlondlo, how impressed I am that he's one of our key players in 2023. And I did a video, which I'll link maybe in the description, you know, just how he's become a key player, and you know that you've got him for next year, he'll still be 29, and then the next will be 30. So you've still got him for something like 3 to 4 years, provided he also doesn't get injured and nothing happens to his talent. Nothing crazy happens to his talent. So this is what I like about Kimvuidi, is that you've got someone who can be at the club for 5 years, if he doesn't go abroad, because that's one of the realities as well. If he's so talented, then, you know, there might be temptations abroad to, you know, go and things like that. And I think he signed a 3 years contract at the club, if I'm not mistaken. So if he stays 3 years, he's still only 24. There is still that opportunity of him going abroad. If teams start to sniff in when he's got a year left and, you know, he's sure that there's interest abroad, then he might not renew his contract, knowing that he can leave for free and go and join a better club and things like that. So there is that, you know, spanner to the works, in terms of, you know, if he's so talented, he very well could leave. However, if he does stay at the club, then you've got someone whom you can use for years to come in our midfield. And that's the first thing that's so impressive about him for me. The second is similar like the first. However, the second point is that, as Jose Rivero described him, he's a complete player. He's got a lot in his arsenal. He's got a lot in his arsenal. He can do quite a number of things for you. But linked to that point, the first point, which is his age, means that he's also very moldable. A 21-year-old is someone who's still developing and still will develop. So you can turn him with proper coaching and good coaching. You can turn him into whatever that you want him to be. For him to be so complete at 21 years old, if the coach is what he thinks of him is that he's a complete midfielder, it means that he gives you already at 21 a versatility and a flexibility tactically. I think Karim Kimvuidi gives us a tactical flexibility in that you can start to shift the system around with different games and not play, you know, the double pivot and the one offensive midfielder. You can switch it to a single pivot and 2 offensive midfielders in that 8 position, where you could play someone like Kimvuidi alongside Ndabaiteto Ndlondlo. At the base of that, we obviously play Monari or Tim, but in the future, someone else I've been very well impressed with is Sepelo Baloni, and I likened him in my previous video to Thabang Monari in the skill sets and what he does. He's another one who's still only 23 years old and can develop and become better and get to that level or even surpass people like Thabang Monari. So that's very impressive with the Pirates midfield at the moment. I think what's happening is, as much as I spoke in this show right now about how Jose Rivero will be thinking about, you know, his time at the club and not so concerned about what happens 5 years from now if he doesn't stay at the club for more than 3 years. Though it does seem like he's been trusting a lot of young players. And I think, you know, at the heart of it, for me, Karim Kimvuidi gives us a tactical versatility, and he's very moldable, and you can turn him into whatever that you want him to be. I beg your pardon. You can turn him into whatever that you want him to be, and at 21 years old, he's still got a lot to go. I haven't seen whether or not he can play, you know, as a deep 6, especially thinking about things like ball winning and stuff like that. I might still have to watch him a bit, but I do think that, like I already mentioned, he's so young that with proper coaching, you can turn him into a box-to-box. You can make him be someone who's a sitter. With what I've seen, something that I know from watching him at Maritzburg is that he's very good at driving with the ball. He's someone who's good at progressing the ball, you know, progressing the play with the ball. So he doesn't always pass it to get it to, you know, our attackers. Sometimes he takes people on, and you want that. That's something that I think he's very different to what we have. Lesedi Kapinga is someone who can do that, but you know, Kimvuidi is very strong. if you've watched him and seen him at the stadium, he's so tall and looks so strong for a very young man. And he looks like he can shrug people off so easily with the ball. And yeah, this is for me, I think, for a long time, with the signings that we've signed this year, don't get me wrong, you know, Patrick Maswanganyi is a fantastic signing. Lesedi Kapinga is a fantastic signing as well, though he's very much into, you know, he's very developed already and is 28 years old at the moment. So he's a signing that he's got to do it now, or if nothing happens with him, if he doesn't impact the team right now, then yeah, it's over in a couple of years. Whereas with Kimvuidi, you've still got a chance to develop him and turn him into, you know, a top midfielder in this league. I've seen a couple of things on I nearly said Twitter, on the app X, and people are saying some wonderful things about him. But one of those things that I've read, I think, I can't really remember who said it now, described, you know, Kimvuidi as potentially the best player, the most complete player in this league, which is what the coach also said as well. And I think it's spot on. He's got a lot of things to offer. And, you know, at his age, it's really just fantastic. And it's a top signing by Orlando Pirates, as many people will have found out by now. I beg your pardon. So let me leave it here. I'd like to hear what you guys think. What do you think of Kimvuidi? Where do you think we should be using him? Do you think we should be playing him as a 6, as an 8, or as a 10? Let me leave it here. Up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Listen, hit that subscribe button. Do it right now. I demand it. And I thank you for it, for your compliance.